Hey everybody, Sean here from the Black Page, and I'm sitting with my friend Zoro of Lenny Kravitz, Bobby Brown fame. If you haven't heard of Zoro, you need to get out from under your rock and learn the Minister of Groove. Zoro,
hey,
good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Sean.
We've been doing some clinic tours here out in beautiful British Columbia. We're on our way to Vancouver right now. We're on the ferry, so you can tell the Pacific Ocean behind us.
I thought this was a private boat.
No, well, that's what I told you to get here.
You told me, then I saw other people on board, and I was like, that's not what he said it was. I see other people.
Yeah. So Z, last night we saw a clinic with you that I felt was a little different from before. One of the things you did, you played some Frank Sinatra, which you never see it. You never see that in a clinic anymore, at least not in this day and age.
Yeah.
What have you been up to as far as clinic stuff? You've been changing the face of your clinics a little bit.
Sure. I mean, like anything else, over time things evolve. You get different ideas or get inspired by different songs. So, I love a variety of different music, always have, and I've always had a love for swing, big band, Sinatra and stuff. So I don't know, yesterday just the audience in Victoria, they were a pretty fired up audience, and they seemed to be digging everything. I thought, I'm going to throw this in there. I think they're going to dig that, because I have this theory that if music is great, people will like it no matter whether they've heard it or not. If you hear something from the 20s or the 40s or the 70s, and you're a kid of today and never heard that music, you'll be inspired because the music's great. That's why people still like, Bach and Mozart and Beethoven and the Beatles. When something's great, it's great for all time, so I think it will be able to impact. So, hopefully my clinics as well as my teaching and my life have evolved over time, and you add new stories to your storytelling.
Yeah, sure. And one of the things we've been doing out here, a lot of record shops, a lot of secondhand record shops, and one of the purchases I felt was really interesting, and I mean, kind of something that I've always thought was an interesting time in music. You bought a record that was kind of based in the 20s, that whole the talkies. And what draws you to the music, the genres that you like? What do you pull out of something like a 20s or a 30s style?
It's just there's something really genuine about the music. Something really pure. It's from a different time period. That's almost 100 years ago.
Right.
If you think about it. So we're 2013. So there's something about the recording sound, the warmth of it, and what the music's associated with. A period of time where people were passionate, and there was a swinging nature to the music. There was a lope to it, a vibe to it. And I have a lot of stuff from other periods. So it was just as soon as I saw that album, like music from the silver screen, and just so people will know, a talkie is like an old school sort of what like an MTV video would have been back in the 20s. There were short little tiny movie vignettes, of a song or something in a movie. So they were, in fact, there's a great documentary all about those talkies from Michael Feinstein here. Michael Feinstein's a famous Broadway composer and whatever. So it's really cool. I don't know. I just like things that are historical, and I like things that kind of move me emotionally. And that's so I gravitate towards records that have that. And sometimes I just love the cover art. Like I love the pictures of the album covers from the 50s or 60s, or you open up the gatefold and it's just cool. There's a booklet with it. It just gets you into the whole experience of it.
And again, staying within that, we've talked a lot about different styles of playing. You were talking last night at the clinic about how you got your start, and you got your start quite late in life.
Yeah.
But that you were influenced, and what this was sort of stuck with me was that you had said in your house there was 7 kids, and in each bedroom there was different styles of music. How did that impact you? Your love of music. How did your influences from your family? How has that impacted your career and even your choice of instrument? Why the drums?
The drums just simply because that rhythmic nature was already in my DNA. It wasn't. I don't think it was anything that my family did. I think it was more like a God-given thing and a God-given draw towards rhythm, and that was always there. But yes, I wouldn't be the musician I am today or have the eclectic taste that I do if it weren't for my mother, who loved music, and my 7 brothers and sisters. Everybody in my family liked music. Although they weren't musicians, they were big music lovers. So in everybody's bedroom, my sister Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, Tony Bennett, and mariachi music from Mexico, where she was from. So I was basically, the house was always filled with music, and we didn't have a lot of money growing up, but we always had records. Right. We had a record player, and everybody spent whatever little money they had on 45s and albums. And so, I don't know, there was just a passion for music in my house. All that stuff directly influenced me as a musician. It gave me like a diverse, wide range of taste. Once I became a player, I liked everything. I liked rock, I liked funk, I liked soul, I liked blues, gospel.
Yeah.
I just like good music, and there's all kinds all over the world.
And then you furthered your studies at Berklee College of Music in Boston. How long were you there, and what was a day for you like? What was the experience at Berklee like? How did you shape yourself there?
Well, first of all, I was only there for 1 year, 2 semesters, back in 1981, and it was definitely a life-changing experience for me, because you're around all of these other. You learn just as much in a setting like that from the students as you do from the teachers, right? Because from the students, you're mingling with all these people that are passionate about music as well, and some of them know music that you don't know. Right. So they'll turn you on to albums, or recordings, or things, or ways of playing, and you'll see one guy play it. So just being in an atmosphere where everybody is zealous about the pursuit of music automatically changes you, right? Because it's the synergy of all those other people. Yeah. So that was definitely a huge turning point in my life and in my learning and in my education. It kind of just fueled that desire to learn more. Right. And when I left Berklee and went back to Los Angeles, I still continued that desire for education and knowing more music and knowing more things that I kind of got in that atmosphere.
Right. Now, and of course, one of your biggest gigs, of course, is the Lenny Kravitz gig. But I mean, Lenny for you is beyond someone you worked with. Lenny's one of your best friends. And you've known Lenny for a number of years. How did you meet Lenny?
I met Lenny in 1981 on the lawn of Beverly Hills High School. I was not a student there. I just graduated high school myself, but I was only a recent drummer, only starting, so I didn't feel like I was qualified to go hang out at a UCLA campus or something. So I didn't know anybody when I moved back to LA, and I just decided, well, let me go to the high school and try to meet some guys my age. I hung out on the lawn with a practice pad and a ghetto blaster, playing some Earth, Wind & Fire music, and figuring musicians are going to know that I'm new here in the sticks, so that maybe I'll attract some musicians who are going to come and talk to me. That's exactly what happened. Then Lenny came up and talked to me, and he befriended me and started taking me all around LA to tell people about me, and it was just the beginning of an awesome friendship.
Yeah. So, and my second question, I'm a huge fan of his writing. I mean, his style is just incredible. Lenny to me is a very unique artist. Yeah. What have you learned about songwriting, song structure, the technical side, even maybe the artistic side? What have you learned from Lenny Kravitz?
From Lenny, I learned a lot of things. Lenny and I have a lot of things in common. We're both really extremely passionate. I learned from Lenny, that the authenticity of music. Like when he does something, he goes for the authentic nature of whatever vibe he's going for. Right. So, like an actor would study for a role, he's going to do a tune that's got a soul vibe, and it's going to feel like 1965 soul.
Right.
He's very authentic. I also learned that he has a real spirit of excellence with everything he does. He never half steps anything. He's a do or die, all or nothing kind of guy. So I learned a work ethic from him. And Lenny also is kind of a guy who sings the beat of a different drummer. He does his own thing regardless of what people think. So, that anytime you're around somebody like that, it gives you a license, gives you a get out of jail free card, gives you a license to be yourself and go, hey, he stuck to what he believed in. He had many record deal offers before he became Lenny Kravitz, as you now know. And he turned those all down because he didn't feel like that was the right music, that wasn't the right image he wanted to portray. And so most people would have jumped at any of them. Right. But he held out. He was like, no, that ain't it. And so just believing in yourself and in your own vision and your own song that you have are some other things I learned.
The other thing, one thing we share a common love of Elvis's music. I played with an Elvis impersonator, and you grew up listening to Elvis. And we spoke about this yesterday, but the drummers of Elvis, the musicality of every player that Elvis ever surrounded himself with. You're now situated in Nashville. It's still kind of in that neck of the woods, the Memphis, the whole South. What for you is the vibe? I've always felt the South shares its or has its own vibe toward music. The South is very musical in such a way that it's sometimes even maybe a little bit different. Like you got the New Orleans thing going on, you got the Texas thing going on. What now that you live there? What have you sort of seen being a new Nashville cat?
Well, I mean, what you realize about that area is it's steeped in rich tradition of music, and Memphis, Nashville, these go back musically, historically for a long, long time. And so it's kind of, you've got the old school country thing there, you've got the gospel roots, you've got, the blues roots, and they kind of all met up in their own unique way in that region, because both Memphis and Nashville have been recording centers for a long time, music, not just recently, but for many, many, many years. And so you just get this hybrid of this combination of Southern gospel, Southern rock, blues, gospel, and it's just this eclectic mix. And some of the best records in the world were cut in those two places, and including like the stuff that went down at Sun Records, where Elvis recorded, and out of that little tiny studio launched music that literally changed the world, changed the universe. Sure. Just out of that little room, but Elvis grew up in a time when he was influenced by all the black R&B music, and yet he grew up in the church. So he had all these influences that made him like a unique specimen unto himself. Even though he was influenced by that stuff, he didn't sound directly exactly like any of them. He's just a combination of them, but he had a lot of soul. But no, I enjoy just being in that area because there's kind of a white man's soul. You know what I mean? It's their own kind of take on country is, like the white man's soul. You know what I mean? It's heartfelt, it's deep, it's emotional. Lyrically, I even though I didn't necessarily grow up like a lot of country music, in LA I grew up around a lot of soul music and rock and stuff, but I enjoy the storytelling in country music. Really great lyrics, great, I can immediately relate to a song by what we're talking about. So it's very heartfelt.
So I mean, especially I think some of the older like Hank Williams Senior, you get that. Yeah, it was their version of the soul music. It was their version of the blues. Now that you're based in Nashville, do you get the country artist knocking on your door to do some studio work, or are you still doing your thing? But
I do whatever people call me for. I do. I never pigeonhole myself into any one thing.
Right.
And I'm always open to. I've gotten called for all kinds of different recording projects, crossing all kinds of different musical boundaries. I'll play anything that anybody wants me to play. The only thing I'll turn down is something that I would feel totally not qualified for. If I knew that I couldn't do a great job doing this, I'll take risks and I'll take chances and stretch. But within the limitations of knowing what I do well. I mean, I'm not going to take like a classical gig playing with the symphony when I'm not a classical snare player. There's a difference between stretching your boundaries and just getting out of bounds entirely.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where you were not even qualified for work. But I still do a variety of things. They're all groove oriented. Whether it's to me, it's all grooves, different kinds of pockets. But I never try to think, well, I only do this, or I'm only going to get called for that. I'm open. So I remain open. 1 minute I could be doing some old school country grooves, the next minute some jazz fusion, all music.
And we had an opportunity yesterday. Zoro sat in with our friend Murray Cree at Groove Studios, and he did a couple lessons. And I was talking to Taylor, one of your students, yesterday, and he said it was incredible. He says not often that a teacher really inspires me like that. So, and you also teach in Nashville. You teach at a university there. How do you approach teaching? What do you try and impart on students? I mean, is it partly there's a kit obviously, and you want to teach them technique, but are there other things you want to impart on them and leave an imprint on them?
Always. First of all, there are people who teach, and then there are teachers. And I'm a teacher. I'm by nature. Teaching gift will come out in whatever I do. It comes out with my simply do it through whatever through the subject matter is irrelevant. And people who succeed in life are people a lot of times they will attribute some mentor, some teacher, it could be a first grade teacher, a sixth grade teacher, a counselor, but it's always somebody in their life that made a difference, and the subject matter didn't matter. It was just that person. A great teacher imparts confidence in the student, encouragement, and then fosters a desire in that person to want to know more and to want to be better and be a better version of themselves. So I'm always trying to impart things that I feel will help benefit their life, not just their music. And sometimes, I'll teach people that are never going to be professional. They don't even want to be. They just want to be better. Sometimes I teach people that that's their goal, is to be a great drummer. But I treat everybody differently, uniquely in the sense that I don't have any one form or curriculum that this is what I run everybody through. I go based on what I feel the individual needs and try to give them things that keep them inspired and things that give them a revelation and foundational things that they can build upon. I've learned a lot in my journey, a tremendous amount of information, so I love imparting all that stuff to them. But mostly, I like when they encounter me for life to have changed for them when they encounter me. Something significantly happened from when they met me when I was in their life. That's my goal. And whatever they want to do with it will be whatever they choose to, but they will have an encounter with somebody who's going to hopefully alter the course of their life. And music's just the thing that connects us.
Often I say, I've done some teaching myself, and I've truly felt this, that as much as I can give to a student, I feel like every student I teach, my playing gets better. I become a better person. What do you think are some of the biggest things you take away from your students? What do they teach you?
Oh, I've for years there were things that I could play that I just naturally played, but didn't really understand what I was playing, but I could hear them. Teaching allowed me to figure out what the heck they were, so I could tell somebody, explain to them. Sorry, I'm going to switch you. I could explain to them, what I'm doing, because teaching always allows you to get better. And then I've seen over the years students do things that everybody has their own unique approach to the instrument. So I've seen students do things that I was like, oh wow, that's cool. Well, I'll get a different idea of approaching something, or the way they played something, or it could be a lick or whatever. But teaching always helps you to reaffirm what it is you're doing and really understand it on a higher level and explain it better. It's helped me grow tremendously as a person, as a musician. Teaching has been a great thing, and I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing somebody accomplish something that first they didn't think they could even do. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, 6 months later, they're doing it, and you just see the look on their face like, wow. And a lot of times, I have a tremendous, as you know, music collection. So I use a tremendous amount of music when I teach, and I find that all you have to do to get somebody to be better is just to get them inspired and light a fire under them of passion, and then that causes them to want to learn, as opposed to just giving them licks and patterns and stuff. I try to take the source of music that. The reason we all play an instrument is because somewhere along the line we've heard music that inspired us. That's why we play an instrument. And so I try to turn them on to things that are going to inspire them and blow them away, and then that causes them to want to get better. And then we dig into what it takes to do that.
So the first time we met was approximately 13, 14 years ago.
Wow.
And you were wearing the old Zoro hat. And now you're wearing the new Zoro hat, the new look.
New vibe.
And
on display
literally
at museums near you.
Literally, and also metaphorically, you're now wearing a different hat, and that you're a father. One of the first times we met, you weren't. I don't know if you were. Maybe just becoming.
Just probably started.
What is in the same vein of teaching? What has fatherhood taught you so far?
It's been the greatest journey of my life. It's been the most. When my life is done, the most purposeful thing I'll have accomplished is being a father. There's nothing that's meant more to me, nothing that's deeper. The biggest gig of all is that of fatherhood. I've done all kinds of gigs and all kinds of big gigs and stages, and people ask me, what's your favorite gig? And my favorite gig is being a father, because it's the deepest well you can draw from it, and it teaches you that life is really not about ourselves. Life is about serving other people. And if you're a good father, that's the mandate. are plenty that aren't, and they still make life about themselves, but they haven't learned what the meaning of life is. So for me, it's taught me to put myself second, put my children first. It also has taught me that it's about legacy and what you're passing on to others. I've always done that as a teacher. So I have many pupils around the world that there's a part of me in all of them. But nothing's closer than that relationship with your own children. And so it's taught me the importance of legacy, of building something into people that's going to go on generation after generation. And also kind of breaking the curse, meaning sometimes we inherit things in life that aren't so pleasant, in our situations. And so you have a choice as a father to go, the curse stops here and the blessing starts here. The buck stops with me, and now my kids are only going to inherit good things. And then this way, there's a quote in my book, the Big Gig book, at the very last chapter is called The Art of Giving, Living a Life of Purpose. And there's a quote in there that kind of sums up the way I feel. It says, "The purpose of life is to plant trees under whose shade you never expect to sit. The purpose of life is to build into other people life, and you may never see flourish." But like I've deposited thousands of things over the years with different students, and I may never see the fruit that comes from it. But that's the purpose of life, is that I'm planting to others, and I'm not necessarily waiting to get credit for it or waiting to see what happens, because it will go on forever. You get one student on the right track could have changed their life and the life of many people generation after generation, because that one guy got his life together, became a better person, became a better father, and then affected generations. So that's really the purpose of my life, is to impact as many people as I can in a positive way with the unique gifts that I have, which are drumming, speaking, teaching, writing, mentoring. Those are my talents. So at the end of our life, it's really not going to matter. The only thing that's going to matter is not that we were talented and that we were great, because there's plenty of people that are that. What's going to matter is how many people benefited from your life. How many people's lives were better because you were on the planet? How many people did you affect in some way? You had a momentary encounter with, because at the end it won't be, well, look how wonderful I was, how much money I made, how many gold albums. If you were an a-hole and nobody likes you, you didn't help them. So humility allows you to do that, and seeing things in a more eternal perspective rather than temporal. If you see things temporary, you're just living for the moment now. You're not seeing the future. You're not seeing the possible impact you have. So that's kind of how I roll.
Speaking of a big gig, so your newest book, is The Big Gig.
The Big Gig.
I've been reading it, and it's a definite step aside for you. You've always written technical books. But you always connect a history. You always do your homework on something. And for me, that was a great thing about the commandments of art and drumming, was that, there's grooves and there's stuff that I've shed, but there's this incredible history that you've delved into, personally talked about, that explains all these concepts. The Big Gig is an actual book. It's a biography, part biography, part inspirational book that you sort of share your life's experiences. There's an interesting story. This book's been a lot of years in the making. What came to? How did you come to write The Big Gig?
I'd always had a desire to write, even since I was a kid. I'd always liked the medium of the written word. Always was inspired by the written word. Even as far back as being a kid, 12 years old, you'd buy a book about whatever, Muhammad Ali, in school, little 50-cent books, weekly reader things. And the power of words always hit me when I was young, and through those motivational stories, it really inspired me. So that kind of prompted me to always desire at some point to write something. So The Big Gig just started as even years before it, I was writing articles in different music magazines as I was touring with famous artists. It started off with articles on how to succeed in show business, how to live out your dreams. It was framed in small little vignettes, and then I realized I want to write a book to teach people what it actually takes to live out your dream. And because there's a big difference today between a dream and an illusion. A dream has structure to it, has strategy, has legs, has A delusion is just wishful, fanciful thinking, and that's the generation we live in. We live in a very delusional age where everybody wants to be successful, but without a plan, without work. And that's half the people that go on American Idol. You go. No, they're not even dreaming. They're just delusional because they can't sing at all. That'd be like me going to a Donald Trump meeting expecting to run one of his companies, so I know nothing about business. That's the equivalent. Or I want to build this building even though I don't know anything about architecture. And so in the arts, you just have a lot of delusional people. And I wanted to show in the big gig what a dream looks like, or what a vision looks like, what strategy looks like, what understanding looks like, what it is to audition, what it is to network, what it is to market, what it is to have, how to succeed as a musician, as a person, how to, in your personal life, your professional life, So that desire was to really to write a book to help release other people into their destiny. Because I've been fortunate to be living out and have lived out my dreams, and I'm still living out dreams, and I've got future dreams that hopefully I will live out. So it's no fun to just, do this and not really be able to impart things to other people. It's always been in my nature to want to help make a difference in people's lives. So the best way to do that is in a book, because I can only have so many one-on-one conversations. I can only have so many one-on-one lessons or one-on-one concerts. You can only be in one place at one time physically. But a book perpetuates your philosophical views on things that can then be imparted. I get emails and Facebook messages literally from around the world daily of people who bought the big gig everywhere on the planet saying this book's changed my life, this book's changed my life, this book's changed my life. This book, and not just musicians, but common people that have found out about it through, because success principles are applicable to all things. If I read a book on a great tennis player and how he achieved his dream, even though I don't know anything about tennis or golf, anything, business, I'm going to understand the key components that I can relate to. And they're all transferable because motivation is motivation and inspiration is inspiration. So the whole goal was to inspire people. So it took me 15 years to complete, and it's 440 pages. It's an easy read because it's not written in a complicated way. It's 22 chapters. Every chapter is the art of something. And there's over 400 motivational quotes, and there's 3 hours of video that you watch from the book by scanning the QR codes, the barcodes in each chapter. It takes you to a YouTube video interview where I'm expounding upon those concepts further. So it's a masterpiece of I think at this point it's one of my greatest accomplishments because it's something that can multiply success in other people.
That's really cool. For those of you who haven't checked out the book, I highly suggest it. It is an easy read. It's easy to understand, but it definitely challenges you to take it that step further and to ask yourself, do I have what it takes, and am I dreaming, or am I just kind of being silly about this? Final question for you, Zoro. What's on the plate? What do you have coming up, and what are you looking forward to in the land of seeing in your future?
Well, I never conclusively know what the future brings. I only know things that I'm working on, and I walk by faith, and I go down the doors that are open. I can't make doors open magically, but at this season of my life, I'm working on writing other books, still developing. I've got a book that I've been working on for over 10 years. It's going to be coming out in the fall. It's going to be called Mastering the Halftime Shuffle.
Every customer service announcement with Henry.
There we go. Now we're really live. Now we're not in a private boat like Sean promised me, because so one of the future things that's coming out in the fall is this very intensely focused book on how to develop the halftime shuffle. So it's called Mastering the Halftime Shuffle. I'm doing a lot of motivational speaking around the world. There are a variety of formats, just regular motivational speaking to, I got invited to the White House last year, so I'm doing speaking on fatherhood, helping fathers become better fathers. I want to work on writing a movie, a screenplay based on my life, and spending a lot of time raising my family. And so everything I do that in the future is still combinations of drumming, the speaking, the teaching, the writing, and the mentoring, and they just keep morphing into more
Probably at any music store. It's
Yeah.
through Alfred's.
It's also on my website. I have a website just dedicated to the book called TheBigGigBook.com.
That's right, yeah.
TheBigGigBook.com. But it's it's available on Amazon. It's on iTunes as an iBook. So it's global. You can get it anywhere.
Highly suggested. Great read. It's been a pleasure talking to Zoro, of course. For those of you out there in Black Page Land, you can comment just down below. There's a little comment box. Scroll all the way down. Like it, tweet it, +1 it. Check Zoro out online. ZoroTheDrummer.com.
Yes, ZoroTheDrummer.com.
And the Big Gig Book.com. And for those of you who haven't seen Zoro's clinic, when you see one, I highly suggest checking it out. Sean and Zoro on a boat. Check you later.
On the way to Spain.